Hi, everybody. Welcome to what is quite frankly my first ever interview doing this. This is Sound Test Unplugged, which is a chance for me to talk to fellow creators who really enjoy video game music as well as doing really cool things with video game music. And I thought a perfect first guest for said cool things with video game music would be Abby the Oboist. This is her. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am really good, especially because I just ate dinner and I'm going to bed after this. So we're
Good.
good.
I love that for you.
We're
I love
really
that for you.
good. So I just thank you so much, first off, just for doing this again, because this is amazing. And I've been like excited about this since we decided to schedule this. So you're awesome. And I'm trying not to fangirl. Like, I just want that on the record. I'm really y'all don't understand, like, her you make like the coolest videos and it like fills my Twitter feed and my YouTube feed, and I'm just like, this is so nice. And I spent like a full week. You did not come here to like get sapped, but you're getting sapped. I spent like a full week, like every time your video would come across like my Twitter feed, I would like drag my boyfriend. I'd be like, look at this. Yeah, it's good, right? Yeah, I get to talk to her like next week. Are you aware of that? And he's like, yes, Alex, I'm aware you get to talk to Abby the Oboist next week. It's on your calendar, which means it's on my calendar. And that's great. I love that. Please leave me alone. So that's why I say thank you.
Well, I'm so happy to be here. Oh my gosh. It's crazy that people like it's still like kind of crazy to me that people like enjoy my content to like that extent, if that makes sense, and like want to talk to me and want to know like who I am and everything like that. So I am so excited to be here.
Yay. Is it weird? Like, was there like a moment when you realized like, okay, holy crap, like I've hit that point that people want to like speak to me?
Like I've hit multiple points throughout my music career. So my music career online started in technically mid 2020. I don't really count that because I was just posting on Instagram. I think I've archived all of my posts from like 2020. I really feel like I really started getting a lot more into it in 2021. In like early 2021, I started posting on YouTube. I would post once a week and I would alternate between Final Fantasy and like another video game, and I would like alternate every week on like what I would post. And I would get like 15 views, but I was like so intense about it. I was like, I am not missing an upload. I need to record. I have to film. I need to do this.
Oh, I respect that so hard because that's how it is.
Exactly. It's like if you don't have that, you know, it'll only ever stay like a dream.
Yeah.
It makes you feel good to think about being like, oh, I should do this. But it's like, it really is like, again, making content for literally no one. And just be like, is there even an audience for this?
Who knows?
Maybe. And then in August 2021, I decided to like post on TikTok. I played the Ocarina of Time title theme. And for me at the time, it like totally blew up. Like it got like, I think 100,000 views or something at the time. And so for me, I was like, holy shit. Like, what just happened? And
Did you stare at like your phone and just kind of watch it happen? Because like I feel like when I got that the first time, I was just like, okay, these notifications aren't stopping.
yeah, so actually, it was funny. It happened like on a work day. I work typical 9 to 5 job. I don't work in music, but it was a typical work day for me. So I remember I woke up and I checked my notifications. I checked all my different profiles and stuff, and I was like, holy shit, why is this video getting, it was at like 3,000 views when I woke up. I was like, that's crazy. And then when I was at work in the office, I just kept checking it and like everything, and I would get so excited whenever it would reach like 10,000 or 20,000, and I was definitely on my phone a lot that day. I was definitely just like looking like, oh my gosh, this person followed me, this person liked the post,
Yep.
and it was really exciting.
Oh my god, it's like the biggest rush. It's so
Yes,
exciting.
yes, it really is. It really is. Oh my
Oh
gosh.
my gosh. No, okay. Like It's just so cool because like we have the same experience, and it's just really exciting whenever you're like, and maybe you can tell me if this is different for you, but like whenever you are like, you see these creators that create these things and they get like all of these views and they do all of these things, and it's really hard to like not see them as like separate from you. Like, okay, I'm like a regular human that has a 9 to 5, and like, you know, I go to bed at this time and I have to, you know, water my plants, and then there's these people that we see until it happens to you, and then you meet other creators who in your eyes are those people, and you're like, oh my god, they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like everybody else. Oh my god. Okay, there is a question I really, really wanted to ask you. This is like the most important question. Did you watch the Game Awards first off?
Yes.
And did you see the guy who was playing the really cool instruments and everybody was fangirling over him?
Yes,
I just want to know.
I did.
Good. I just want to know, were you like the rest of us? You were just like, look at him go, and like you were just like his biz fan after that night? Because I love him and I think he's awesome. Like,
it was really cool. Like seeing a lot of those instruments like in that setting is like really unique. Like I believe he was playing like at one point like a contrabass flute, and that's an instrument that it's like honestly people in the audience can't even hear. It's so low. It's doesn't project like a lot of other instruments do. And it's like he was just going so fucking hard on it though, and I was like, I have so much respect for that. It's like I love it when musicians get really into what they're doing and you can tell that they're having fun on stage or whatever the context is. So I'm pretty sure I followed him after the Game Awards. I think was he on last year for the Game Awards orchestra? People seem to have referenced him online, and I was like, is this like his second time or something? But
maybe. You know what? Honestly, I don't know, because this is the first one that I like fully watched all the way through.
Me too, yeah. Because I was like, Baldur's Gate. I was like, I need to see how many things Baldur's Gate wins. So I was like, I'm watching the whole thing. So it was my first time watching. So.
I was geeked. I didn't watch it the day of because I was busy doing something, but I like watched the entire recap because somebody was nice enough to put a whole recap of like all of the awards and all the best moments. And we get to this performance and I'm watching this. And I mean, you know, everybody up there is giving like the performance of their lives, like doing amazing. But this guy on the end was just giving his soul to this. And I was like, because I personally, like, this might come as a shock. I can't, well, not anymore. I don't play a musical instrument now. I did when I was younger. I played a guitar. But I know that if I was a part of making video game music in any aspect or doing something regarding this, that would be me. Like, you would know. Like, I was hyped to be here. I am running on adrenaline. Like, it would be the biggest thing. And you would know that I was excited. So it was just really cool. But I was like, I wonder if Abby was freaking out the way we were all freaking out.
Yeah, I think it was awesome. Like I said, I love it when you see musicians having fun playing. I feel like I come from a classical music background, and so that's a lot rarer to see in like an orchestral setting, essentially. And so I love seeing music outside of that classical setting, the big orchestra on the stage that seems so far apart from the audience. And so I love it when a musician comes across as human to an audience, because it really connects you to on a whole nother level to that musician. And look, he was everywhere online, like as it was happening.
Oh, he blew up
days after, like
he blew up.
Like I love that about music, and honestly social media and video games and everything like that as well.
I think I like really agree with you. It is really nice. Like, I was blessed growing up. My parents took me to, you know, plays and to orchestral performances and all of those things, and it's really cool to see them in that like traditional performance setting. But it's even cooler seeing them playing video game music, number one, but then just not in that traditional setting. They are like at an awards show for video games that we grew up with and we've loved all year. And I it's just really cool to know that there are people out there who have this talent and this love for video games and have like married it. And I need more. I need more.
I feel the same way.
I just need more. Oh my gosh. So here's the big question. I mean, there's like a ton of big questions in here. Don't get me wrong. But here's my big first question. What made you want to start doing your own renditions of video game music? Like what did it for you? What made you go like, you know what, I want to start making these? Or have you always been making these and you were just like, all right, cool, I'll just start recording it? Or how did we get here?
So my journey with like creating like music covers, renditions, whatever you want to call them, honestly started all the way back in high school. I was a Tumblr girly back in the day.
Okay.
I had a video game Tumblr. Like I was reblogging everything about Legend of Zelda. I was reblogging so much Nintendo, Final Fantasy,
was a Tumblr girl. We were the Tumblr
Tumblr
girlies. Okay.
I was.
It was, I mean, it is what it is. Like, it was probably the best one there. Who can say? But
But I used to post recordings on Tumblr. I would just do like the audio posts. That never really turned into anything, but it was something where I would record like the Great Fairy Fountain or Zelda's Lullaby, and it was just me. I didn't have any other instruments behind me or anything like I do now. And I had fun doing it. It was a lot of fun, and I loved it, but it was something where I was like, I was busy. I was in high school. I was doing all the music extracurriculars that you can imagine and working, and it was like I had too much on my plate, and I felt pretty much the same throughout college, where I was like, I'm too busy to do anything except school again.
Yeah.
And then I graduated in May 2020 with my bachelor's, which was a terrible year to graduate.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Wait, did you have the online Zoom graduation where you cursed with that?
Technically, yes. I just didn't attend. I just didn't attend.
Just didn't go.
My university had like a makeup the following year, but it's like, that's not my graduation. That's the 2021 grads.
Yeah, that's
like,
not
moment.
Me anymore. You've missed the shot.
Exactly. But my family was like, we all celebrated at home, and it was. I still felt exactly. And honestly, like in regards to like my college graduation, it wasn't that. I don't want to say big of a deal, because it's a big deal. If you are able to graduate college, that's a huge achievement.
Absolutely.
But I think just with the idea of like, both my parents graduated from college. My dad has like all the way through his PhD, and then my two older sisters had already graduated, and had the whole like big thing in the stadium and everything. So it was like, when it was my turn, it was just like, I've been in so many graduation ceremonies, like as a musician as well, in like schools, where it's like, I'm not missing much.
You've seen them one. You've kind of seen them all,
Exactly. Exactly. Like, I'm sure anyone who's watching or listening who is in like either their high school band program or their college band program has played at least one graduation ceremony.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, that's hell. That's hell on earth. But yeah, so graduated May 2020, and I was extremely depressed, obviously, like I think most people were at that time.
Can't agree.
And after I found like a temporary job and everything, because I was like, the job market was fucked as hell.
Truly.
And after I found like a temp job, I started doing music again, because I've had like some energy to do so. Like I had the realization of, there's a strong possibility I won't play with other people in an ensemble setting for a very long time, if ever, just because I did not see myself going into music in like the traditional professional setting of like becoming like trying to audition and join an orchestra or teaching at a university. Those are like the two very standard paths for classical musicians, or joining an army band. But I'm not. The army band is no. That's
the answer
a no
is no
for me. The answer is no for many reasons. But because of that, I was like, well, if I want to keep playing my instrument, I'm gonna need to figure something out. And I always love video game music. I've been playing video games my entire life. I've been listening to video game music my entire life, and that's what makes me the happiest.
Yep.
And so I started finding sheet music online, using like MuseScore and sheet music, everything like that. And
So
I was
shout
like,
outs to
okay,
those. Shout outs to
yes,
those.
huge, love, obsessed. And yeah, I started again making content on Instagram at first, but then transitioned to YouTube. I think most of my early stuff on YouTube is still up from 2021, which is like very funny to look back on and also listen to, because I'm self-taught with like everything audio,
That is
like
so cool.
mixing, mastering, etc. I am self-taught.
Wow.
And so it's very funny listening to my stuff back then and kind of hearing like, oh wow, I have like grown both in that setting as well. Since like the oboe stuff, I was like, I got that. I've been playing that for years. Easy mode for me.
That's the riding the bike. It's the editing and the
everything else part that is hard. But
that is so real.
Yeah.
It's so cool, like when we get older, right? Like we get older and now we've got not necessarily more time, probably less time, but like we've got more ability to do these things and like have these things that we loved as kids, and then we can do something with them. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we loved video games growing up, but we were kids, you know, like kids love video games, but unless we were going into game design, like were we ever thinking this was going to turn into anything? Were we going to keep it going besides like having this ridiculous video game collection we've never gotten through? But like we've managed to find this like passion and marry it together with doing something that's like a little bit more than a hobby. And that's like the one saving grace of being an adult, because being an adult is not always the best, but we've found ways to make it work. What is like, tell me about your process. So like, do you have like a song in mind, or do you hear a song and you're like, oh, I want to make that one, like redo it myself? Or is there just like a list you have? Like, take me through it. How do you get there?
Yeah, so I kind of always have like a mental list of video games that I love. I've been playing video games my entire life. I come from a large family. I have 5 siblings, and my 2 parents, and we all play video games. My mom just recently became a gamer over the last couple years, but like I grew up with my dad playing video games, and so I've always been surrounded by video games. So there are like some games I haven't played, but I watched my sister play all of it the way through, or something like that. And so because of that, I've been exposed to a pretty wide variety of games, especially within like the JRPG realm and Nintendo. We weren't very into like the first person shooter games like COD or Halo or anything. Like,
Sam, you're the born with it, you're not.
Exactly. It's like I'm too girly for that.
That is so real. Because same, like I only have one big brother, and he's 9 years older than me, but we played Zelda, and that was like our thing. We weren't out here doing Halo and stuff. That wasn't for us. It never was. No. We're too girly, but like
exactly.
We could still probably win if we took you on in Fortnite. It is what it is. Just
yeah, for sure.
Anyways, you were saying. Oh my god.
Because of that, like I became super familiar with a lot of soundtracks, and then also just continuing playing video games and just listening to lots of music and everything. It's like I have a pretty general idea of like, okay, I know I like the music from Final Fantasy, from Pokemon, Harvest Moon, Stardew Valley, like all of these like general like overall series. So then when like I said, I really love using online resources when I can, especially again, and sheet music's amazing. I get a lot of comments asking for like where should I find sheet music? And sheet music's awesome. That's a free resource online. And then I also really love MuseScore a lot. I pay for like the whole subscription thing. I don't know what the access is if you are just doing like the free version, but so I have like my kind of my mental list, and then I'll every like a couple times a month I'll be scavenging through the internet. I'm what can I find? Because I already know I'm going to have to Frankenstein things together, essentially, because 99% of video game music does not have oboe in the melody line, so it's like I'm still having to edit my part to be how I want it to be, and then I batch record a ton. So in my videos, I'm not technically playing. I know, shocking. Scandalous.
Oh my god! And you're just gonna say that boldly on the internet? That's bold of you. Okay.
I know. I've talked about this openly on TikTok. If my real ones, they know.
Okay, I'm about to say, don't let my thing be where you just out yourself. Like, don't put this on me.
No. I think it's very important to be honest about the process, because so I batch record, so I'll have like 10 songs like ready to go. I just need to record them. I'll record them, edit them, and then normally like within that week or so I will sit down and shoot the videos for all of them. I will like do it all at once. I'm just changing my clothes in between videos, essentially. Been there. Yep. The way I do it, it's like when I'm filming, if I have like 3 Legend of Zelda songs, I'll wear the same top in them, so I know when I'm like going through my SD card, like what is
that's the Zelda top.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I love that.
And in the video, I have my sheet music up. I have my recording playing on my laptop, and I'm like just fingering through my recording, because otherwise I would just be running through batteries on my camera and getting frustrated with myself if I was trying to record live while film at the same time.
Yep.
Like, I produce quite a bit of content. I'm gonna take some shortcuts where I can, and that's an easy way to have some shortcuts. If any of y'all out there are wanting to do music on social media, I strongly recommend trying that method of recording, getting it exactly how you like, and then filming. You don't need to do it all at once. You'll be much happier with the results and a lot less frustrated with yourself. And it makes creating content so much easier.
Everybody write that down.
Then try and do everything at once. Like, don't do that to yourself. You will be miserable.
Oh my god, we suffered for you. Like
exactly.
We had to learn this ourselves. Like, please.
Exactly. But yep. So then I batch film a ton of stuff, and then I edit it, and I like post it throughout the next several weeks, and then the process just kind of like loops again. So that's like the overall process for me.
I actually really love that process. Like, you've got it down, you know, and it works and it's comfortable. And honestly, it's one of those if it ain't broke, don't break it kind of things. Because like once you have it down, like don't touch it kind of thing.
Yeah. And also, I also keep all of my content. My phone is to the max with its memory, because I have videos going back like 2-3 years at this point, because like I started blowing up on Twitter this year, but I had already been making content for like 2 years at that point. So I was like, well, y'all are getting all of my old content now because I've been saving this. Yep. So it also allows me to really utilize my content in as many ways as possible by like producing a ton of stuff, essentially, where it's like I also have no shame in reposting the same video from time to time.
You shouldn't.
Like, I 10 out of 10 recommend, if you're like, this didn't do as well as it could have, especially on like TikTok, post it again. No one will notice. And if they do,
they're not gonna say
they're
anything.
They're just a fan. They're just a fan.
Maybe they just are on your feed. Have you thought about that? But yeah, no, that's big. Repost your stuff. For one thing, not everybody who can possibly see it's gonna see it in the first go, and it'll get buried. Exactly. Repost your stuff.
Yes.
These are wise words from Abby. Okay, so you talked a little bit about this, but I really just wanted to like dig into it. You said, obviously, like people who aren't like really paying attention to video game music, at least not as much as me and definitely not as much as you, don't probably know this, but like there isn't a giant like dealer's choice of video game music with like oboe in it, and like just here's where the oboe goes for you. So like is that like your main challenge, or do you have other challenges when you're trying to like create these songs?
I would say the biggest challenge is that the oboe range is pretty limited. It doesn't go as low or as high as a lot of instruments, so that honestly kind of limits what I can cover, because there are times where it's like, I would love to be able to cover this piece, but I would either have to like knock it up a whole octave and then it would sound weird, or I have to knock it down a whole octave and then I still can't play some of the notes, or something like that, just because the oboe itself is very limited with its range. And I currently do not own an English horn, which is like the it's like the deeper version of an oboe. They're like $8,000 for a professional one, so it's like,
God. Yeah.
And nope, I don't have that kind of money.
We'll get there.
yeah, someday I would love to have an English horn, but at this current moment, I do not own one. So I would honestly say that is the biggest challenge. A lot of the time, most pieces can sit well on the oboe's natural range. I don't really have to like bump things up an octave or down an octave, but I would say that's the kind of the most limiting part of changing music around for oboe to be the main line.
Gotcha. That makes sense, honestly. I never really thought about like the literal limitation of the instrument, I think that's probably something a lot of people don't realize. Like, there's probably tons of songs you'd love to recreate.
Yes.
But just physically can't. Is there one that you can think of right now that like, if I could, I would, but I can't?
I've done this cover, but I honestly don't like how it sounds because I know it doesn't sound like the original. Kyrie's theme from Kingdom Hearts. There's supposed to be like an octave difference in the melody, so the melody plays an octave lower the first time or two, and then it gets bumped up the octave. I can't bump it up the octave, so I just have to play it the same octave, and I also can't lower it to begin with because the oboe doesn't go that
down
low
either.
So it's like, well, it is what it is, and if people complain about it, I can't do anything. Sorry.
Fix my oboe and then wait.
Exactly. It's like, create a new instrument and I'll do it.
Oh my God. It's so fun. It's really making me realize, like, across different types of content creation, right? Whether you're doing music, whether you're playing video games, whether you're doing XYZ, cosplay, all of that stuff, at some point people are like, well, why can't you do this? And it's like,
yep.
Then invent the tool to do it, since you know so much. Like, there's only so much I can do.
And it's always the people who don't make content who leave comments like that. Always.
They're the first ones. Well, why can't you just do this? Well, why
don't you?
Curious to know how you would do it. Like, this is so, it's like misery loves company, right? Like,
exactly.
It's so nice other people struggle like I do. Yes. Oh my gosh. So you talked a lot about, you said that you really enjoy, Nintendo music and then also RPGs and anything. What have been some of your like favorite pieces from different video games that you've done?
That I've done? So I would say, it's actually funny. I just posted today on Twitter a clip of my cover of Sanctuary from Kingdom Hearts 2.
I saw.
And I think that's a really fun one because obviously the background music is very like electronic-y, synthy, etc. And a lot of people don't, like, I don't see that covered very frequently by instrumentalists. And so I think that's a really fun one. I've done a full cover of it on YouTube. I think that's one of like my posts going back to like when I first started making content on YouTube. But I really love that one a lot. Also to Xanarkand, I love the original piece. I love covering it. It is so beautiful. It is one of those pieces that I unfortunately feel like my cover will never do it justice because it sounds so beautiful on piano and as a solo piano piece, but I still love playing it anyways because it's literally one of my favorite pieces ever. And I also love two Zelda songs that I love covering a lot is Zelda's Lullaby and The Lost Woods. I think those sound really good on oboe and they're just really fun to play. And I've like those are songs I learned by ear in high school kind of thing. So it's
We
like
all heard them.
exactly. It's like
Times.
we all know it. It's a classic. It's like old reliable for me. If like I'm in a content rut of like, okay, I'm gonna play what I love playing. I don't care if I've posted a cover of this before. Like this makes me happy, and that's a good enough reason for me to re-record something if I want to.
I love that. I love how you don't really, it's like, hey, I want to play it again. So you're going to hear it again.
You're going to hear it again. Probably wearing like a different cute outfit this time.
Right? Like it's a different video, technically speaking. Like I'm not the same person I was back then. Like it's new. That is, my God. Whether you know this or not, but anybody who does not know me, I'm a huge Zelda fan. Abby can see more of my screen than y'all can on this screen. So I'm pretty sure you see the giant freaking Zelda thing in the back. Like I love The Legend of Zelda. So the thing that got me first, like the first video I ever saw you record was absolutely, I don't remember which one it was because I've watched like 80 of them, but it was one of the Zelda ones you recorded. And I was just like, oh, Zelda lover, music from Zelda. And I was like, she's cultured. So I'm just glad that there's Zelda music pieces in your favorites, because my favorites yours are Zelda, but then also some of the Final Fantasy ones too. I'm just like, I'm new-ish to the Final Fantasy series. Like, I've only played like 2.5 of them.
Hey, no shame at all. No shame. There's so many. There's.
Have you ever performed any of the video game music live, like in front of people? Has it always just been for the camera?
I've on TikTok before while just recording content. I don't know if that technically counts because it's still like, behind a screen and everything like that. But other than that, I don't think so. I played when I was like all the way back in high school. I played oboe for some background music for some art shows at my high school and stuff like that.
That's cool.
I was playing video game music.
So Did they know? Did they know that's what you were doing?
I don't think so. I was just kind of doing my thing.
They're like, this is so beautiful. It sounds so original. Like,
yeah, people are like, oh my gosh, you sound so good. I'm like, oh, thank you.
Thank you. It's Zelda anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, all of my performances, because I've been in so many concerts, I can't even count them. Starting back in high school when I was in public school through college, and I honestly only stopped doing standard, as a lot of people consider performances. I only stopped doing those again when I graduated college. Well, technically when COVID started. And
COVID.
Yeah,
ruined it all.
Yes, but honestly, I think currently I prefer still doing music in my own space by myself. I don't have the stress of, oh my gosh, if I mess up, everyone's gonna know. Yeah. It's like, no, if I mess up, I can start
again. Exactly.
And it's not the end of the world. And so honestly, I love recording music just in my apartment.
No, I get it. Like, I started out as a YouTuber and then I like to say I was bullied into live streaming. And the one, like, I had to fight me for like 2 months, and like the big thing that held me back from doing anything even remotely live, even though technically speaking you're still behind a camera and you still have control, what stopped me was that you can't edit out the mistakes if you're live. Like they have to watch it happen, and and that's it. Like, it's there, people saw it with their eyes, they can talk about it, they were witnesses, and it's just it's a different thing altogether trying to perform it. And so I genuinely, like, I don't judge anybody, and more than likely I really just like understand, like, no, I prefer to just record it in my apartment where it's safe and comfortable and nobody can bother me, because if I mess up, only I heard it, and I'm not gonna lie. I'll lie to my grave. Like, I never messed up once. Like, obviously you're a creator, and as creators, we are beholden to social media and what social media does. Now, me personally, as like a Giganto fan, in my heart, like, you never get anything but positive comments, but we all know that's not how the internet works. How do you I always love to ask creators, like, how do you handle the inevitable and unnecessary negativity that like comes from putting something that you make out on the internet? Like, what do you do? How do you handle it?
Oh, on TikTok specifically, that's where I get the most like sexual comments on my content. Especially playing an instrument where you put part of it in your mouth. You know?
They'll take anything, I swear to God.
Exactly. And I very quickly became familiar with the feature of blocking certain words that just get held for review. So I utilize that feature, to be honest, especially for like anything that makes me uncomfortable in that regard, because I support people who do make sexual content, who are sex workers, etc. But that's not my content.
Right.
That's not something I'm interested in. And I when people start making sexual comments about something I'm creating, it makes me uncomfortable. And so I have a very hard line on any comments that make me uncomfortable. I typically will block that person and just move on. In regards to like negative, just mean comments, with my content, I'm producing art with something I've been doing since I was 12, for 13 years.
Yeah.
I am willing to bet almost every single time that someone has left a mean comment, that person probably hasn't worked on any skill for that amount of time, let alone the oboe. And so it's just like, if someone's like, oh, you sound like shit, it's like, okay.
Okay.
Like, I just move on with my day. Or someone will, I think someone had commented on one of my Twitter posts sometime being like, oh my gosh, you're so quirky, and like left some random comments on some other things like along those lines. It's just like, okay, like I'm not interacting. I don't respond. I move on with my day, because I always feel like those people are trying to get something out of you.
Yeah. And
so I just don't respond. I will say I've been pretty lucky. I don't get that much hate. Knock on wood.
Right. Like,
yeah. I'm sure at some point I will do something stupid, or someone will find something to nitpick on, and people will latch on to that. But it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, I make little music videos on the internet, and it's not that serious. Like, it's just not.
Really not that serious.
It's not that serious. So yeah, I really recommend that anyone who is interested in making content looks into those kind of like safety measures in regards to monitoring your comment section. Again, I think TikTok has like honestly the best settings for that. You can block lots of words, and then you have to approve those comments. So you still have to see them.
Yeah.
But other people won't see them unless you allow that comment to get posted. So I really recommend looking into those features for anyone who is struggling with that.
Such good advice. But like, I agree. Like, people will find a reason.
Yeah.
They'll find a reason no matter what it is you're doing, right? And
exactly.
I think I like that you're just like, I'm playing music on the internet. Like, I'm just making my little videos. I'm just playing, like, it's not that deep. Like, I'm not doing anything inflammatory in the slightest. Like, okay, you're clearly the weird one.
Yes.
Like, okay, if that makes you feel better, because it's true. Like, we creators, we get it for less, man. Like, we could sit here and just be like, I really, really like cheese. Love me some cheese. And people will be like, have you considered that you've never tried all the cheeses and you can't make that opinion on the internet, and you really shouldn't call yourself an expert? Well, all I said was,
I'm lactose intolerant and I can't believe you like cheese because I can't eat cheese.
Right. Or like, have you considered that your love of cheese is the reason the ozone layer has a hole in it? It's like, I really just said that because I was eating pizza. Like, it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good thing. That's a really good point. Like, just remind yourself, like, you really ain't doing shit. Like, you're not doing
Exactly.
ridiculousness on the internet. So
No.
it's really them with the problem. Truly, it is them with the problem. No, I totally agree. On the flip side, when you get like positive comments, maybe you're like me and you remember every last positive comment somebody ever says to you, but you get so many because you're so good. Like, again, for people who aren't following her on Twitter, why? But also, like, her comment section is just, this is beautiful. This is my favorite one. I love when you do this. I've seen people who've been like, okay, now do this one. And then you'll quote it and be like, so I did this one. And it just keeps going. It's like a really cute conversation and then just full of love. But like, do the positive comments, do they do anything to you? Like, do they keep you going? Are you like, yes, I made this one and I was worried about it, but now I'm going to make more off of this because people seem to be vibing with it? Like, what does it do?
So I think sometimes it can be kind of hard to like be like, these are real people leaving these comments. I'm sure you can relate at least to some extent when it's like you're making content online. Sometimes it's you still feel almost disconnected to your audience, to your fans, because it's like, again, I'm posting something and then I'm clearing out my cat's litter boxes, or I'm posting something in between running errands, or like sometimes it can be hard to feel like these people are real, are also going through like their own day-to-day life. They're on their lunch break or whatever, just because I think it's very easy to just get so sucked into your own day-to-day life.
Yes.
But I love it when people comment like, oh my gosh, I grew up playing this video game. I love this composer. And then I have a lot of people who are like, I've never heard the oboe before, but I love it now. And
that was me. Hi, I was one of those people. I like never heard an oboe. I like heard like a lot of people, we've heard we've heard the word oboe, but we're like, I don't know what an oboe is. Like, you could put it in front of me, I'd be like, it's an instrument, have no name for it. But then once I heard, I was like, this is a beautiful instrument. Like, it's so pretty. Like, I'm one of those people. It's
no shame at all. It's one of those instruments that maybe now when you listen to soundtracks, or if you ever listen to any orchestral performances, like, I feel like after you know what it sounds like, you're like, oh, that's that instrument that plays the solo in the Swan Lake Ballet Suite or something like that. But yeah, definitely. It's funny. I always feel like whenever I'm having like my like most difficult like times with my mental health, that's when my social media starts doing extremely well. Like, almost like clockwork. Whenever I'm like going through like a tough time at work or other struggles like that, it's like I'll just post something randomly and it absolutely blows up. And I'm like, I guess life is okay sometimes.
Maybe it's not all this bad.
Maybe it's not all terrible.
Clearly, I could still play the oboes.
Exactly. It's like, well, if nothing else, I can play the oboe, which is cool. But yeah, I always really appreciate comments. I pretty much read all of them. I will admit, when I go to bed, I might miss some because if I wake up, I'm getting ready for work. I'm a busy bee, but I try to read as many as I can. I feel like on Twitter it's more difficult because I don't want to like everything and then have that like blow up everyone's feed of me liking
just
comments.
all that stuff. I get that.
But like on TikTok, I really try to engage a lot when people are commenting on my content. Same with YouTube as well. Sometimes that's easier said than done just because life, but it always means a lot. And also, it can give helpful feedback if like, oh, people really want more Pokemon covers or Hollow Knight or whatever the fuck game I don't even know about, or it is also really helpful to get a gauge of like what does well and what people don't particularly care for, because obviously not everything is a smash hit. And then it's kind of weighing like, okay, am I posting this because I love the music so much, or okay, I know this series is kind of a flop for content, that's okay, moving on, trying a different series or something like that.
Well, that makes sense. So going along with that then, and this has been like, these are the questions that I was like, I have to hold off, get all the important stuff out the way. But I told you I am here to geek with you about video game music a little bit. So I've got some very weird questions. Number one, what video game has your favorite soundtrack, period?
I have to say, like, the Final Fantasy series. I am a huge fan of Uematsu. I grew up watching my dad play Final Fantasy. I remember Final Fantasy X the most vividly because I was born in 1998. I think Final Fantasy X released in like 2001, 2002, something like that. And I don't remember when he even got it himself, etc. But he also had some of the older Final Fantasy games. So I have two older sisters, one who's 4 years older than me and another who's 2 years older than me. And so we would all try playing like Final Fantasy 9 and 8. Again, barely being able to read, not knowing what we're supposed to be doing.
God, no,
like,
just romping around.
Exactly. So I have to say just the Final Fantasy series as a whole, but especially the tracks that Uematsu has composed. I think he is an amazing composer. And I think a hidden gem, I feel like Final Fantasy is kind of a classic, favorite Final Fantasy, or favorite video game soundtrack choice.
Right.
But I recommend looking into the Saga series. That's another JRPG. It's a lot more popular in Japan than in the US.
Okay.
But I am blanking on the composer's name right now. But their work, especially in Saga Frontier, is amazing. The music in that game, the game itself, hot garbage. Hot garbage. It's terrible. It's not good. I played it all the way through. It is not a good game. It's a good time, but it's not a good game.
God.
Like, but the music, it's like insane. That's one of those games where it's like I've posted a couple covers from Saga Frontier specifically. I know it does not do well on social media because everyone's like, what the fuck is this game? But it's one of those things where it's like, I love it so much that I'm posting it anyways. Like,
So
I'm posting it.
That's when you know it's like real love,
Exactly. Again, the game is not good. I haven't played other games in the Saga series, to be fair, but Saga Frontier is not a good game. It did inspire Octopath with like all the different players that you can, the party members that you can pick up. Saga Frontier has a very similar system where you can choose what main character you're going to be, and you can pick up the other ones throughout the game. So I do have to like tip my hat to that aspect, but everything else about the game is not good.
Listen, like, if you can sit there and be objective and be like, I love this specific part about this game, but the rest of it is hot ass. Like, that's very real, That's like mature gamer brain. Like, no, I know it sucks, but the songs are really good.
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
Oh my god. So you said Uematsu, and quite frankly, he's one of the greats, right? Like, just he's royalty, video game composing royalty, and obviously he's what put Final Fantasy music on the map. But lately it's been Soken who's been doing Final Fantasy 4. He did 14, he did 16. I don't know if he did 15 or not. I never remember, but he did 14 and 16, and I'm curious to know, like, how much of his have you heard, and if you have, like, where does he rank for you? Because for me, and I'm trying to be so professional, for me, he is like top 3. I love his music, but Uematsu, was the blueprint for Final Fantasy music, and then Soken took over to a certain extent. So that's what I want to know. Like, how much do you know?
I say I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan, but I am one of those people where, as they've grown in popularity in the United States, my interest for it has declined. I've played Final Fantasy 14. Well, it was actually funny. Again, I mentioned that my family were all gamers. We all played through Final Fantasy 14 relatively together. some of my family's members like played extra outside of like our set gaming time. We have like a Discord chat. We would all get on and all play Final Fantasy
so
14. Cool. And some of my family members rushed off, or one of my family members just gets distracted by every quest available, like you know, all that kind of stuff. But we would do all like the dungeons together pretty much. But I played all of the free content that was available for the PlayStation. So that's A Realm Reborn, and I think the first 2 expansion packs.
And Heaven's Word. At the time, it was A Realm Reborn and Heaven's Word. I don't know about PlayStation, because they might have given you Stormblood for all we know.
I can't remember. I do remember Heaven's Word, so that may have been it, but I thought the music was okay. I honestly loved it whenever they had an arrangement of like an older Final Fantasy game, because it's kind of like a party trick of like someone can play a Final Fantasy track and I can at least get the game correct, if not like the song title, because I have listened to so much Final Fantasy music. So I always liked it when it was like, oh my gosh, I remember this one. This was in Final Fantasy IV. This is when you're fighting the creepy little doll heads and everything like that.
Oh my
god. But I have to say, other than Final Fantasy XIV, which I wasn't a big fan of, but I also don't think I'm a big fan of like the MMO style.
Very valid. Very fair.
But even Final Fantasy 15 and 16 just didn't interest me enough to really play it. And so I feel like if you don't play the game, it's a lot harder to feel connected to the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like if someone was to be like, oh my gosh, please cover this track from Final Fantasy 15, I would give it a listen and be like, okay, yeah, this would make a good cover and do it, but it wouldn't be like, oh my gosh.
It wouldn't hit you the same.
Yeah. But I know like other people could still appreciate it and have that feeling, so it's like I'm more than happy if it's a good piece, it's a good piece.
That's fair.
I have heard some of the music from 15, and there are some tracks that's like Dewdrops at Dawn or something like that. That is very pretty. There's some really pretty music in 15. I don't think I've really heard much from 16, to be honest. But I'm kind of an old school Final Fantasy girly, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, like it's totally fair. I mean, those games have evolved so much, right?
Yes.
Like they're not the same games that they were back in the day. And like I said, I've only played more of the new ones. Like the oldest, I'm playing 7, like the original 7 for the first time by myself, like now. And
okay, I have to know.
Okay.
I played Final Fantasy 7 for the first time when I was like 16 or 17. And I was like, this game low-key sucks. Like, let's be real with each other right now.
We can cut it. We can cut it. Don't worry about it. Like, yeah. I don't know. So obviously I didn't grow up with the same, because I wanted to play the original, because obviously like, the remake is coming out.
Yeah.
And I wanted to play the original for 2 reasons. Number 1, because I'm very impatient, and they're taking their sweet fucking time finishing the remake. And I need to know, like, I'm not going to sit here and wait God knows how long for you to finish this damn game. I'm finishing it now. But number 2 is just because I wanted to see what everybody else saw. Like, what makes it so, like, what about it is so damn good to everybody else? And I haven't beaten it yet. Like, I'm in disc 2. That's all I know. I might be halfway, because there's 3 discs in the game, but like I might be halfway through the game at this point. And like, I also don't get it. Please don't, like, you know, cancel me for that. But like, I don't get it. It's a good game. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's a very good game, and it's fun. And I think they did a lot with graphics and everything for the time. But like, maybe it's like one of those you don't really get hit till the end type games. So I'm hoping maybe not. Yeah, I know. I actually already know the story. I Googled it when I was like 10. But like, so for me, I'm just like, okay. And like, this is a freaking spoiler alert to anybody who does not know this story for 7. Like, stop it. I'll put a timestamp that leads later in so you don't like get spoiled. It's fine. But I'm like, okay, she dies. People die in Final Fantasy all the time. Like, I'm not burdened by this information at all. And so no, it's not just you. I also I'm with you. Like, It's
Yeah.
fine.
Like, it's fine. Have you played Final Fantasy 6
No,
yet?
I have not played 6. It's on my list.
Okay, so I don't remember the order I had played them. I did not grow up. The oldest Final Fantasy game my dad had back in the day was Final Fantasy 8.
Mhm.
I don't remember if he had 7. If he did, I have literally no memories of it at all as a child. So I don't remember if I had played 6 or 7 first when I was playing them on like on like our family like PlayStation 3 or whatever in high school. But I just remember after I had played both of them, kind of like mentally comparing the two of like, I didn't appreciate Final Fantasy VII's. Like, I understand they were trying to appeal to like, again, Western audience and American culture, etc. But it's like the Honeybee Inn or Manor or whatever it's called, where it's like the punchline is that gay men are creepy and things like that, or like sexual jokes or more just sexist jokes, or like Sid being like kind of just a misogynist and things like that. Exactly. And it's just like, I had played an earlier game in the series where it had amazing female characters, and yeah, it's still dated, but it's like it felt very different in regards to how certain topics were handled. And it's something where it's like, I can understand why people enjoy it, and why I'm sure people who are hearing this are like, I don't get how people could find that like offensive or something. It's just a joke. It's like not that big a deal. It was different, etc. But it's like, doesn't mean we have to be okay with it now, in my opinion. Like, we can notice things and talk about them as adults.
True.
Again, similar to, I can say Saga Frontiers gameplay sucks and is absolutely insane and makes no sense, but the music's really good.
Right.
Like, you can critique things and compliment things and understand why they're important to like video game history and the Final Fantasy series, but not be like totally like having to support every aspect of the game. So those were things where it's like, when I was playing again as like a 16, 17-year-old, I was like, I don't get why Tifa, who's like this badass like martial arts fighter, is doing a slap fight with this woman with like Scarlet or whatever her name is. And it's just like, what, like, is it supposed to be funny? Like, what?
I didn't laugh. I was like,
yeah,
okay.
It's like, why?
All right. I thought it, for me, I was like, I didn't realize, and now I'm thinking about in the parts I have played, I didn't realize it was like them trying to appeal to Western audiences thing, because like, I am the Western audience and I'm confused. Like, what are we doing here? So in my head, I was like, this is a Japanese thing.
And maybe it is, but I'm again a huge Final Fantasy nerd. I love watching like all those YouTube essays on like different Final Fantasy games, etc.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's like the big thing with Final Fantasy VII, is that they really marketed it to the United States specifically. And clearly it did very well for them, and everything like that. But there are certain things that it's like, I think we can all admit the United States was and still is not the best on certain topics regarding people who are not like cis white straight men. And again, comparing it to Final Fantasy VI, it's like, there were certain things they didn't have to include and still continue the story or show character. And they were like, nah, it's a funny little gay joke that gay men assault people.
As if we're not still dealing with the fallout from that rhetoric.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Like, okay.
Exactly.
Totally. Well, that makes sense. I think I'm the same way, and I do agree. Like, you can love something, you can love one part of a game or any like piece of media, honestly. You can love one part of a game while still acknowledging the drawbacks or how it hasn't aged well or anything. I'm the same way with Ocarina of Time, right? Like, Ocarina of Time has its place. It has its place. It is a great game. It is revolutionary as far as video game development went, and for its time, it was like next level. It was amazing, and there's things that Ocarina of Time did for gaming that we are still seeing, now. But I'm not gonna sit here and say it's like the best game ever made, and it's not the best game in the series even. Like, but you can say those things, and I think
yes,
people have to realize, like, objectivity is not black and white. Like, I can sit here and be like, I love this game, I'll replay it at least once a year. But no, yes, the graphics have aged like shit. Like, it looks terrible.
Yeah.
But it's still fun. But being able, I appreciate that you're one of the people who's just like, no, I recognize this game as ass. It's not the point. I like the music, and that's what I came here for. Because I have plenty of games like that. I don't know, and I bring this up to everybody I meet who talks to me about video game music for longer than like 12 seconds. One of my favorite games for music, because it's not a great, I mean, it's a fun game, but it's a fun game if you're like 12. It's called The Munchables, and I'm sure like my partner is behind the camera over there minding his business. If he can all hear me, he's like, oh my God, like, here she goes about this fucking game again. But like, it's got really good music for such a shit game. It's that music goes. It's like, if y'all had put half as much effort into the game as y'all did into the soundtrack, y'all could have had something here. But like, it's
I have
true.
never heard of that game before. What was it on? Like, what is
it was
this
for
game?
So it was for the Wii. It was not a AAA. It was like freaking Bandai Namco made this damn game, or they at least published it or some shit. And it's about these creatures called Munchables that are like they just eat. Like, their whole thing is they just love to eat. And their planet, which is called Starving, I'm not kidding, these Munchables who live on the planet Starving get invaded by space pirates, but as is going with this ridiculous game, the space pirates are like anthropomorphic food.
Of course.
And, there's carrots and broccoli and grapes and chocolate and like all of these things. And the elder of the planet comes to like two of the Munchables, Munchie and Chomper. I'm not kidding. And
of course,
as is customary.
Yeah.
You know, and he comes to these two characters and he's like, we need your help and your ravenous appetite to get rid of the space pirates. And then you spend the entire game going around like different islands on planet Starving, eating everything. Like, this is a very accurate description.
Fever dream.
Like, it is a fever dream, but I own that shit. I don't even know where I got it from. Like, I don't know if it was like a terrible gift from like a grandmother or something, but like, I own it. But the game is just, it's very silly and very like kid friendly and everything. And I do play it because it is kind of fun, like when you're lazy on the couch kind of thing.
Yep.
But the music is something else. Like, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if y'all mixed up the soundtracks and somebody else got the crappy soundtrack that went with the crappy game, but this is amazing. But you can say that, and I always say you can have a great game, but if the soundtrack is shit, it kind of takes quite a few points off for me. It can make it a terrible game. But like, conversely, if your game is shit already, but the soundtrack is banging, I might revisit just to hear the soundtrack.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, I just, it's a whole, that's my game. That's my soapbox game. Let me get off my soapbox because we could be here for 3 hours just on that alone. This was like the first question I had in my head, like when I first saw you on the internet, but like, what has been like the hardest piece for you to learn or like adapt? Like, what's been the hardest one that you got through it? Like, you didn't stop because you couldn't due to like limitations, but like one that you were like, this is difficult, but damn it, I did it.
Nothing is immediately jumping to mind. I think that's honestly because of my background of being a classically trained musician. The music I play now is not nearly as difficult as what I played in college, essentially. So it's something where it's just like, like most of the time with the music, it's like after I've rearranged things, etc. Normally I could just sit down and record it. Like I don't need to practice it. I could just sit down, record it, move on to the next piece, record it, etc. Because in college I was playing really, really hard stuff. So it makes stuff like in comparison now a lot easier. I do get comments being like, "Oh my gosh, this is so crazy that you could play this." And in my head I'm like, this is peanuts to like what I would do in college. Like, and it's something where I understand like someone who is not a musician, you know, it's just different because it's similar to when I see like artists. I don't draw or anything like that, but I love art so much. Like I don't think you can really see, but like I have prints all over my walls in my apartment because I love going to conventions and buying art because I'm like, this is so amazing.
Same.
How could someone do this? Like, how do you even think of this? And then put it onto paper.
Yes.
So it's like, I understand that feeling of like, how can you do this? Like, that's crazy that you're able to just do this.
Yes.
So it's like, I completely empathize and understand that mindset because that's how I am with art, where it's like, it's so amazing. I love it. I love buying art. I love supporting artists. And I'm sure to them, they're like, oh, this took me like an hour.
Yeah, I just do this.
And I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever seen.
No, that's so fair. Because for me, again, like, I played music for just a very, very short amount of time. And there's things that I can just visualize. I'm like, oh, I know how I would do that. I can put that together. Like,
yeah.
Easy. But for, like, with what you do, and you're creating music, and you're adapting it to the music, like the instrument that you play, I could never in my life like sit there. I can't see the process that you can see. And it's the same thing, right? Like there are people who are like, how the hell do you have these effects? Like, how are you? One of the things like on my stream is a lot of the stuff on my stream I've like emulated from the video games I love. Like my transition right now on stream is literally like you're about to start a new level transition in Sonic Adventure 2. It's like, it's my favorite video game, so I did it. And people are like, how the hell did you even, and in my head I'm like, I just saw the layers and slapped them on top of each other. Like, you can do that, and no, other people can't. But then I sit here and I'm like, I could never, like.
Yeah, and I stream very like I stream like once a weekish. Sometimes I skip a week, etc. And it's like I'm one of those people where I'm like, I had a friend come in, her boyfriend come in person to help me set up OBS because I was like, I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I don't know anything.
Yep. And there's people who are like, you understand this shit on your screen?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you don't?
Yeah. It's just one of those things where it's like, everyone has that thing where it's just like, it makes sense to them in their head. It could be math, it could be art, it could be so many things. And for me, it's music. It's just one of those things where it's like, again, I know I've played way harder in college. I took private lessons up from like when I started, actually when I started clarinet, that was what I started on when I was 8. When I switched to oboe, I continued private lessons on oboe all the way through college. So I was always seeing someone either in college I had weekly lessons. In middle school and high school, I was either going weekly or every other week where I was working with someone where it's like their job is just to teach. Like, teach me how to play this specific instrument. So it's like, again, what I do now is a lot easier, but I have way more fun with it. So
the trade-off.
Exactly.
It works. Okay.
Exactly.
So I feel like this is a question I can only ask people who have got like that classical training, because the background I have is very weird, right? Like I'm obviously, like, I do this for a living. I'm a content creator. I play video games. I cosplay. But I'm a biologist, Abby. Like, I have a degree in biology. Yeah. So for me, I'm just like, there's a certain, not even like a theoretical, there's science behind music. And something lately that I've been trying to like piece together, and like, am I the only one noticing this, or do musicians actively see this when they're listening to video game music? But something I've noticed is that there's like this pattern, and I don't know if it's necessarily in all video game music, but I've definitely noticed it in Nintendo music and Persona 5. But a lot of the really catchy tracks in these video games have like between 3 and 5 repeated notes that they just repeat, you know? So like with Ocarina of Time, like the songs that you play like 3 notes, then repeat it, and then it makes a whole song out of that, right? And then you actually did a rendition, and I loved it. I ate it up. I showed everybody I could. You did a rendition of my favorite song from Persona 5, The Days of My Mother was there. And even that is just da-da-da-da-da, like just repeated, right? And is there like I don't expect you to know like the entire thing, but like, have you noticed it? And is there something to that? Like with video game music and a small number of notes just repeated and making something repetitive. Like, it can't just be me who notices this, right?
So, I'm sure a composer would have a different answer than me. I am not a composer, but I will say that the difference between like video game music and like a Brahms symphony is that video game music, you aren't meant to sit there through the entire track, essentially. True. Because, you know, you're going in and out of battles, you're going through like in Persona, like, you know, you are going in and out of encounters, maybe cutscenes, etc., where it's like there are these interruptions in the music that the composer cannot plan for unless it's like a whole cutscene. So it's true. Like it needs to be something where it's like it can end at any point and it won't feel like off, essentially, for the player. It won't detract them or take them out of the overall video game experience. And also, at the end of the day, like a lot of people who are like really good at like math and sciences in general tend to be like really good at like music theory and understanding like composition if they do have that like extra training. Because at the end of the day, music it's a math problem. And you have so many things you can have per measure, like a number of things, and you can subdivide it. And but at the end of the day, it has to be like 4 beats in a 4/4 measure, for example.
Right.
So because of that, lots of music will have themes throughout either the whole symphony or through the whole game. There might be like a overlapping theme throughout a lot of the music or something like that, because it will catch your attention, you will remember it, and you will like associate with the game. Like Legend of Zelda, everyone knows Zelda's Lullaby. Everyone who plays video games, right, even if they've never played Legend of Zelda, they know Zelda's Lullaby. They know that, okay, that goes with that series. Yeah. And it's just kind of like its own little earworm that you can attach to a series very easily. So, like, again, having those repetitive things, it helps build music on itself, because then you can have variants of that theme, or you can have it just as like a bass line maybe, or to like the Days When Your Mother Was There, if I remember the context correctly in the game, it's like you're in like the desert. Yeah. And it's something where it's like, in my mind, it's like when I visualize a desert, it's like it's the same. It's just big sandy hills and dunes and everything. And it's kind of like the same in the music, where it's like it's the same underlying theme throughout, but the melody is just so beautiful, just like how a desert is beautiful in the way that it is almost nothing. Yes, I think there's like a pyramid and like some other like ruins or something like that, but it's like at the end of the day, it's still just a desert. Yeah. And it's like, it has that da-da-da-da-da the entire time throughout most of the piece, but it's like, I think it does a good job of kind of like recreating that visual environment in the music.
That is such a good point, though. Like, I never stopped to really think about what would make, like, what's the difference between making music that's meant to be like listened to all the way through from start to finish versus video game music, like, you know, background tracks that need to be good enough to get the point across, set the tone, set the mood, set the scene, right? But not be so distracting that A, people aren't paying attention to context, what's happening on screen, but B, when they leave the area or a battle happens, it doesn't immediately tear you apart from it. And it's really interesting because, I don't know, and maybe it's because I didn't grow up with Final Fantasy VII, but going back to that one, I know you love Uematsu, so this is probably like disrespectful of what I'm about to say, but like the the battle music for that is almost distracting the way it kind of cuts in, because it's such a like complete track by itself, you know what I mean? And then it cuts away from whatever overworld music you happen to be in. And that's something that I've never had that problem before until I was playing 7, where I was just like, this is like a whole, and it doesn't change ever, right? Like outside of bosses, you're pretty much listening to that the whole time anytime you have an encounter. And so for me, I think because I'm used to in other video games that are, admittedly are older and they had more space for more variances, but like the encounter music changes depending on like your area or the circumstances or anything, and it was just very different for me. And so it's really like, it's cool to hear. Like I never took that into account, like that just being something that's very important to video game music. Like, it's just like a
yeah. And it,
like, no shit.
and it also depends on the genre of game. Like, you know, there are more and more games that like Final Fantasy VII, for example, you have the whole like, you run into a monster, everything stops, like the screen turns black or whatever, and it transitions you into the like the whole like fight cutscene of like camera zooming around. Like it, older, especially JRPGs, really took you out of the moment of like, I'm running through the overworld. Oh, I ran into my 100th random encounter, like before I could get to Fort Condor or wherever the fuck I'm going.
Literally my life.
Yeah. And it's something that like in older JRPGs especially just hasn't aged well for a lot of people. I personally like both like turn-based combat and just kind of like the free, like, you know, attack whenever you want. You don't need to wait for the other person to take their turn before you can go. I like both versions, but I definitely feel like it's because I grew up with playing like turn-based combat. But for me, it doesn't take me out, but I can definitely like empathize with people where it's like, oh, it takes me out of the moment, because that's just a whole like dated genre thing. I feel like at this point, and I think games now that do it, like I know Yakuza has turn-based combat to an extent, and then Persona, I feel like they've found better ways of like having that system still without it just being like, okay, here I go again.
Yeah, and I mean it's weird that I say that, because with Persona 5, like, you know, they've got 2 encounter songs, and one of them is like a whole song, like it's a performance, it is a song, but it doesn't hit me the same, like it doesn't stop me the same way. I think part of it is because yes, I have to fight something, but now I get to hear this song again, I'm ready to go. Like I don't know if maybe that's it, but like you make like a really good point, right? Like newer RPGs and JRPGs, it feels like they've gotten a lot smoother with that. Final Fantasy 13 is somewhere between being, you know, turn-based and not turn-based. I don't know what I would call it at this point. It's somewhere in the middle.
I don't know.
It's like 7 on crack, if we're being honest. But like the way they like transition from one to the next, it's not entirely hard to transition from one to the other. And I guess that really is just something that like composers, I guess, have to take into account, right? Like, okay, is this an RPG where it's like stop and go, stop and go, stop and go? Is this just free fighting in the overworld where I can play wherever I want? Do I have, like, I don't know if you've ever played Pikmin, but
no, I haven't.
Okay, I try my best not to geek about Pikmin, but I'm gonna geek about Pikmin. I really think you should. And for 2 reasons. Number one, it's adorable and it's great. It's just a great game. But the first 2, I haven't played the 4th one. I got the 4th one for Christmas. I swear to God, Grandpa, I'm going to play it. Give me a minute. But I think you should play them, because Pikmin 2 does something really interesting where it's got overworld music, but it has overworld music that evolves depending on the situation you're in, right? So it's got the bass track, and then it's got the I'm fighting something version. It's got it's sundown version, but it's still the same song, but like with different tones and like different things added to it. And I just really love how it does that. And I think that's one of my favorite things that like video game music has been able to do. And I guess GameCube counts as a freaking retro
I know
now,
it does.
We're Abby, we're old.
We're very old.
Do you realize, like,
we're old?
It's disgusting. But like, I was about to say modern consoles, but fuck, maybe not. GameCube going forward, at least, like, those are things that they've been able to do and that they've thought through, and it's always really interesting just hearing people's like opinions. Like, what have you noticed? Because I've noticed things, but you have a more musically trained ear than I do, so what you're able to see and what you're able to pick up and understand is far beyond anything that I could ever hope to understand, lest I sit through like a music theory class, which I might end up doing. But I said no more school. We'll see. Is there anything like in the future that you want to be able to do? Like, I know you talked about like, and one day maybe like you'll just be rich and you can have your French horn and then we can do the thing. English horn. Sorry. But like, yes, you can have your English horn and you can do those things. But is there anything that you're like looking forward to in the future to be able to do? Or are you just really very content with this is what I do and I'm enjoying it and I'm good?
So obviously the English horn, that would be epic, iconic, groundbreaking, revolutionary. But I feel like another thing that I've been getting more into, which is funny because it's not related to video game music, is playing in emo bands.
Ooh.
Playing oboe. I really love this specific genre of emo called Midwest emo.
Interesting. Okay.
So in Midwest emo, some of the bands will have like a trumpet in their band or something like that, a more non-traditional instrument for like an emo band. And so I've been on my networking grind, connecting with different emo bands and artists and everything, being like, hey, if you have oboe, I feel like it could be really cool. Like, I promise. I am being featured in an upcoming emo EP that's getting released. I don't know what the release date is. I'm on one of the tracks, so as soon as it is released, I will be sharing it everywhere. I'll be like, look at this, and you never thought this would happen. So that's kind of like a separate, like, all under the Abby the Oboist umbrella, but the cinematic universe. But that's something where that's like my other big love in music is emo music, and like what I kind of view as like trash music, where it's like this music, it's like this singer is singing about their high school ex and they're like 26, they should be over it, but it's like I'm still gonna jam to this song though. Like,
that is so cool. Like, you've got these like, they're like these two sides. There's like the Abby the Oboist loves playing oboe renditions of video game music, and there's Abby the Oboist is absolutely playing this trash emo music at the same time. Like,
I love it. It's like I love those artists so much. I think another thing that I feel like would be cool at some point is trying to collab more with other musicians. I've done some with TPR and some other video game arrangers and stuff like that, but honestly, it's something I've noticed, especially when I started getting on Twitter more and everything this past year, or a couple months, whatever, is that I feel like video game music and the community overall is still very much like a boys' club.
yes.
And it's something where it's like, I notice when people are like, oh, I've done this album, or I'm going to be at MagFest, and it's like, they're like, and it's with all these other musicians, and it's like, all men, and it's like, or masculine people, and it's like, it's something that it's like, as a woman, I notice.
Yeah.
And it's same with like people of color as well, or gender non-conforming people, where it's like, you notice when it's like, oh, it's all cis white men, or, you know, everything like that. It's something that I've definitely noticed a lot, and sometimes it kind of brings me down a little bit, because I'm like, damn, it's like, where are the girls? Like, I know they're out here. I know they're making content. Exactly. But it's like, why are we still not shown in these contexts? Especially when it's like, there are some really big music creators out there who are women or people of color or gender non-conforming, etc. But it's something that I hope at some point people start realizing that more and try to get more women and other, and again, people of color, etc. into these spaces because, again, it's something where, as a creator myself, I notice, and it's like something where it's like I keep a little list of like this person never works with women.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like an accident and they don't realize, or is it like an intentional thing?
We notice
Yeah,
these things. We really do.
exactly. And so I really hope that, again, this is like a more, I guess, community thing that needs maybe a little bit of a come to Jesus on, but kind of viewing like, okay, how am I forming these groups? Am I always just asking my buddies every time? And yeah, my buddies all happen to look exactly like me and have the exact same backgrounds as me, or am I going to be intentional about my choices of who I bring on and collaborate with? So again, I've worked with many amazing artists, and again, obviously this goes without saying, it is not all men, it is not all white people, it's never all one group of individuals. It's something that, again, people will notice, but it's not all men's fault, etc. Again, I feel like you always have to say that when talking about these things.
You shouldn't have to, but the disclaimer
must be disclaimer said. It's like, it's not all men. It's not all men, I promise.
I swear it's not what I meant.
Exactly. It's like, I've worked with a lot of great male musicians and male content creators and like all this and that, but it's something I notice in the classical world as well, and that's very much a boys' club. And again, in the internet space as well, it's still very much a boys' club. So I would love for that to change and to be like, feel a little bit more like welcome in those environments as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. What do you think, what would you say to any creator, but like especially I guess women, right? But what would you say to any young aspiring musician who has this love for video game music and is just hoping to do something with it? Like, what would you tell them?
A handful of things. Women specifically, or girls, etc., whatever your age is, first of all, be extremely careful what you put out on the internet.
True that.
It is so easy to put stuff out on the internet, it is impossible to take it back. So things as simple as sharing what restaurant you're eating at on your Instagram story, things like that, be very mindful of. I know it sounds silly, but it's like, you never know who's looking at your stuff.
You have to.
Be really careful.
Overly cautious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You have to be extremely careful. So again, that's for everyone, all ages, all gender, sexual orientation, etc. But especially women, really be careful of what you share online. But besides just the general safety stuff,
now we've got the disclaimer out of it.
It's like, okay, don't accidentally dox yourself. But I think it's really important to not get into the headspace of I'm not like other girls. All other girls only make content because they're trying to sell their OnlyFans, things like that. Like, make sure you're not in that headspace. Don't view other women as competition. Even if they're making similar content as you, they are not your competition. They could become amazing, like almost work colleagues or friends even, and you don't want to accidentally let your own internalized misogyny prevent that from happening because you're like, oh, well, they just always have their boobies out or whatever, all
random
that kind
shit.
of stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, don't let all that silly stuff impact how you view other women in the content space. It's very easy for that to happen because we live in a society where that is normalized. Unfortunately. But so I definitely recommend, again, don't view other women as your competition. Don't view yourself as like, well, I'm not like other girls. I make cool video game content. Girls just don't make that stuff. And it's like, no, don't be that person.
First off, we're right here. So
exactly.
That's
it's
not
like
even
those,
true.
I've every once in a while, I'll get, especially when I was newer on TikTok, I had like 80% male audience on TikTok. And it's improved a little bit over the past year or so, but it's still predominantly men. And every once in a while, I'll post out being like, hey, I'm looking for other women and other people who are maybe in the LGBT community or something like that who also enjoy these things. And I'll get comments from my male followers, some of them who are extremely understanding, and they're like, I get it. Like, you know, I get why you want to have like a diverse audience.
Right.
But there are other men who are like, well, you cover video game music. What do you expect? It's going to be mostly men. And it's just like,
you're like the worst part of this.
Exactly. It's like, you're who I'm trying to avoid. It's like, yeah, like so many women play video games, you know. But yeah, so don't view women as competition.
Mm-hmm.
We're all in this together. We all have the same struggles of weird comments and weird DMs. Another thing I really recommend is making yourself as almost inaccessible as possible in regards of your DMs. You can lock that shit down where only people you follow and they follow you back can message you. Utilize that feature. You don't want weirdos coming in your DMs being like, oh my god, you're so hot. What if I paid you $20?
It will absolutely happen.
Will you send me pictures of your feet? You know, like, just snip it before it happens. As soon as I made my different profiles, I always set up where only people who I am mutuals, like we both follow each other, can message me. Yeah. You know, again, that kind of goes along with basic internet safety, but it's something that you may not think about, and then you get the weird DM of like, oopsies, I should have shut that down before it could have even happened. Not to like victim blame, obviously, but it's like, utilize those settings. Yeah,
it's definitely, again, learn from us kind of thing.
Yes.
We've been there. My God, have we been there?
Yeah. You know, and again, if you also are one of those people where it's like you do have an OnlyFans, there is absolutely no shame in that. And if you want to create other content, like, by all means, that's awesome. Like, that's epic, iconic, like, I'm obsessed.
Good for you, multi-talent, first off.
Exactly. Exactly. So also don't feel bad when it's like, you know, you are making that content and you're proud of it. Like, that's amazing. And don't let other people tear you down because you're also a sex worker as well. I feel like in the video game space, it's very looked down on, especially if you're in the Twitch environment, as I'm sure everyone knows.
As we've seen so far.
Yeah, just over the last couple of months and just years. So again, all forms of content creation is like amazing. Yeah. And again, women are like so creative, and I wish we had more support in online communities, but it's really important when you can to support other women and other people's content as well.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. That's like a really good point. Listen, like, have women come a long way? Yes. Have we come far enough? No. And
exactly,
until we do, we can't alienate ourselves from the only other people in the world that understand, you know?
Exactly. And, you know, we all, again, I was a Tumblr girly. We all we've all had those head spaces of like, oh, I'm not like other girls. I dress this way, or I listen to this music.
Kid, you know? Alex would be embarrassed because that was her. Oh my God.
Like, you know, there's no shame in that. This part of growing up and maturing, but, you know, just make sure you're checking yourself at the same time, even as like an adult and everything.
Yep. It's okay. Like, none of us are ever going to be perfect, but we can just work towards being more perfect. Because again, like, I was absolutely that girl, and like, I mean, it was like in elementary school, don't get me wrong, because I got dragged pretty quickly, but like I really did. I was like, I'm not other girls. I play video games and like I wear t-shirts and shorts. Like, I'm one of the guys, and it's like, bitch, you're still very much you're a girl.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, number one, like, shut up. First, like, if I could go back, I'd probably be like, hey, twerp, just shut up a little. Like, you're kind of doing too much. But like, it's okay as long as you're growing and you're continuing to learn and everything. It's really just like, again, we're not far enough to not be together on this journey. Like, women are absolutely the minority when it comes to gaming, in the gaming space, whether it's in the music space or just playing video games or developing or voice, like, it's all of it. And I agree. And until, you know, women's are like half the executives, I think we're going to be like that for a while. So
unfortunately
it is what it is. Oh my gosh. So here's I just thought of this question and it's so random. It's just so random. If you had to pick one type, and I'll give you an example, but like one theme of video game music as like your go-to one for listening to, what would it be? And when I say theme, right, like there are people who just live and die by their cozy music, like their cozy vibes, their autumn playlists, or are you one of the people who really just, I need to hear more of that boss battle music and I need to hear the more intense stuff? Like what hits your ear correctly? Because personally, I'm a water themed music girly. Like I can, something about it does it to my spirit. And shout out to whoever created my favorite water Nintendo playlist for putting like actual water running in the background because you make me pee at regular intervals. But like, but like there's different themes that just hit people different. And so I just want to know, like, what is yours? What's your fave?
I guess again, I'm a big Final Fantasy fan, big Uematsu fan. I made it back when I was in college. It's titled Study Playlist. I don't study anymore because I'm not in school.
We're free.
But exactly, we're free. I'm never going back, never. But it is almost all Final Fantasy music, and it's like the different character themes. So it's more like the chill like character themes, like Aerith's theme, for example. It's not the Final Fantasy VII fight music or what have you, or intense like dramatic music. And then similarly, like maybe like overworld themes. Like I like the chiller vibes, but I do have, back in the day when I was a gym girly for like 2 years.
Oh yeah.
I have a Final Fantasy gym playlist. You know, as like most people do.
Oh no, I'm one of those. I'm just, curious what's on it. That's really it. Just like, okay.
It's literally like all Final Fantasy battle music.
Yep.
And boss battle music. And there are so many different like especially like the older Final Fantasy games, they have the ending boss music is like a lot of the fighting music, or like and in Final Fantasy VII, you'll have like this like big fight in the story, and then it's followed by another fight, but there's like a scene in between, and so you'll have that like continued intense music that's different. I had those in, like, it was like anything that was like very dramatic. I had in that playlist.
Chef's kiss. Oh my god, I'm not the only one who has a workout playlist full of video game music.
Not at all.
My half the time my Spotify day list is just video game music at this point. It's no, I'm not embarrassed like in the slightest. Like it is what it is. That's me at this point.
Do you have Munchies on there, or
okay? Like nobody respects the Munchables enough to put it on Spotify, and I'm a little upset.
Sorry,
like nobody respects it enough to put it on Spotify, and I'm gonna need that to change. And maybe that needs to be me. Like maybe I need to be the change I want to see in the world, I guess. But like one day she's gonna get the respect she deserves.
For sure, definitely.
And when that day comes, I will be at the forefront of the celebration. All right, I will be shooting off.
You'll be leading the charge.
I'm gonna die before that happens. I promise. Like that game's from like 2010. Like it's not happening. But a girl can dream, can't she? Good Lord. Okay, I've got but like one final question for you. Is there any game you're just anticipating coming out?
I'm excited for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I really like the remake, so I'm excited for Rebirth. I think it's like I'm down for just going on a wild ride that makes no sense. Like I'm down for that vibe.
Oh yeah. So
I'm excited for that. I am excited for whatever Larian Studios comes out with next, the creators of Baldur's Gate 3.
Yes.
I'm really excited to see what they come out with next. I have played some of their previous game, Divinity 2, Original Sin. So I was already familiar with them before Baldur's Gate 3 came out, but I'm really excited for anything they come out with next. I will most likely be buying like as soon as I can. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. They have like a very like high bar they set for themselves. I'm sure they're feeling it themselves.
Oh,
but,
there's gotta be pressure.
Yeah, but whatever they come out with next, I'm excited.
That's gonna be so great. I don't know. I feel like maybe this is me, but like if I developed the game that won Game of the Year, I'd be like, shit.
I know it's like, oh,
I mean, I'm glad you liked it, but like
especially not even just win Game of the Year, but like cleared like so many of those awards.
Right. I mean, they swept.
Yeah.
Like
crazy.
I'd be like, great. You like this, and this, which means I can't fuck up this, and this.
Exactly.
I feel like I'd be excited, then I'd get home and I'd be like,
yeah.
Fuck. Okay, all right, I can. Let me just breathe. We got this. Everybody good? Y'all didn't see that. Like I'd freak out. No, I did have one more question. My God, this is like Alex, your ADHD is ADHDing. Would you ever, like, if you were like approached and or you had the opportunity, would you take part in making a video game playlist, like for a video game?
Like record on a soundtrack?
Like working with a composer and being
so
a part
yeah.
of it.
No,
just like no stop.
Yeah. Like for any video game composers out there, my email is abbytheoboist@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out that's for like business inquiries, etc.
We're gonna put it in the description. Don't be weird, but like
don't be weird. I won't be happy if you're weird. But yes, that is the end goal.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, like to be like featured in a video game soundtrack or to be a part of a video game soundtrack in any way. So
well, obviously when it happens, because like we're manifesting and I can just see it happening, but like when it happens, I request only that you send me a ticket when you go on tour for like the symphony, because like there's been like Square Enix has been giving us gold with these symphonies, and I don't know if you've seen, now Sonic has its own symphony and Stardew has theirs. It's sold out too damn fast for me to get a ticket, and like so
I'm like the off-brand at the moment. I'm off-brand.
Fair.
Like Distant Worlds, Final Fantasy. I'm off-brand Sonic. I actually haven't covered any Sonic songs, to be honest. So I'm not even off-brand Sonic.
Yeah,
I'm off-brand Stardew Valley concert. So it's like if you're one of those people who haven't gotten tickets, hey, check out my stuff.
Just go to the YouTube channel.
It's the off-brand. It's the Walmart brand version. Yes,
that's a great value brand. Symphony. Put some respect on your name, Abby. Oh my God, the Kirkland brand.
Like. The background, like there are some pieces that I've done where it's like a very big orchestral score, but it's all like MIDI instruments, so it's just like it's Abby the Oboist and the MIDI symphony orchestra.
Oh my God, it's going to be awesome. Like when it happens, just know that I'll be in the back. I'll just be like, she told herself great value. I'll get dragged out of the theater. Like it's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome. I'm just like, you know how there's like that whole freaking Kourtney Kardashian, she like held it up at Blink-182. I was like, Travis, I'm trying to be like, Abby said she was great value. It's gonna be great. I'll know I won like if I hear you laugh like mid-note. Like I'll be like,
I am such a giggly person that like I'll both be sweating, but also probably very, very, very easy to make laugh in that situation. So
good. Okay, I'm gonna like write it down. Okay, when it happens, I don't even want you to be surprised. Like when you start going on tour, you're gonna be like, I'm getting really close to Texas. Shit. Okay. Don't look in the audience.
Don't make eye contact with anyone.
Look at the music and not a damn thing else. Because if you see that if I see cardboard, I'll know it's her. It's gonna be. Well, this has been awesome. Seriously. Like, thank you so much. Like, I feel like, A, I learned something, but B, like, there's like kindred spirits, because like, I just want to find all the people who love video game music as much as I do and then just gag about it for hours. But if I do that, then it'll be considered kidnapping, because I think you should probably eat now.
Yeah, I do kind of need to eat dinner.
But this is Abby the Oboist. Seriously, thank you so much for being my first guest. This is everything I could have ever wanted. And obviously all of her information will be down below. I swear to God, if you don't give her the respect she deserves, I will be like in your walls scraping on your drywall. Like, you don't want that. I'll do it. I'm not afraid to make your life uncomfortable. But seriously, it'll be down there. And just, you know, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun. This was great.